They were fading piece by piece like old photos in the sun. The next morning, Carlos called me into his office. There was a folder on his desk and a gentle smile on his face. "A foster family is open to taking you in," he said, my chest tightening. "You don't have to say yes," he added quickly, "but it's a chance to live in a real home again." I looked down at my hands. They were small but strong. I had survived sleeping in a diner bathroom. I had walked into a new life with nothing but a backpack and a lie. Now someone wanted to give me a home. I didn't say anything at first. Then I nodded. "Okay," Carlos smiled. "Her name is Grace. She's strict but kind. No kids of her. Own. You'll meet her tomorrow. Strict but kind. I could live with that." That night, I folded my clothes neatly into the plastic bag the shelter gave me. My heart beat fast. Not from fear this time, but something else. Something new. Maybe, just maybe, this would be the beginning of becoming someone new. Grace didn't smile much when I met her. She wore a long gray coat and had short, neat hair, like she trimmed it herself. Her face was firm, but her eyes were soft. She looked like the kind of person who didn't waste time with extra words. But when she did speak, you wanted to listen. "Emma, right?" she asked, holding out her hand. I shook it. "Yes, ma'am." "I'm not here to replace anyone," she said quietly, "but I run a clean house and I expect respect. You'll have your own room, you'll go to school, and you'll help out. Is that clear?" I nodded. "Yes, ma'am." She gave a small smile, just the corner of her mouth. And that was enough. Her home was small but warm. Shelves full of books, a worn rug in the living room, and a kitchen that smelled like cinnamon and old wood. My room had a twin bed, a wooden desk, and a window overlooking a quiet street. It was more than I'd had in months. Maybe ever. That first night, I couldn't sleep. Not because I was scared, but because I wasn't. I wasn't on a bench or in a shelter or hiding behind a lie. I was in a real bed with clean sheets and a closed door. I felt safe. School was hard at first. I hadn't been in a classroom since before the train station. I didn't know what grade I was supposed to be in, and I didn't like people staring. Most kids ignored me, but some whispered when they thought I couldn't hear. "That's the foster girl," they said. "Do you think she was homeless?" I heard she doesn't have parents. I kept my head down and focused on my work. Grace checked my homework every night. She didn't praise me much, but when I brought home my first A, she made spaghetti and let me have a second slice of garlic bread. I knew that meant she was proud. One weekend, she asked me to help clean the attic. We pulled down dusty boxes, filled with old letters, photos, and broken lamps. "Whose are these?" I asked. "Mine," she said, wiping her hands on her jeans. "From a long time ago, before I was alone." She didn't say more, and I didn't ask. But in that moment, I realized she understood loneliness in her own way. Over time, I stopped, looking over my shoulder. I stopped expecting the phone to ring with bad news. I started using the library, staying late for science club, and tutoring kids who needed help in math. I still didn't tell anyone the truth. Not about the train station, not about my real name, not about the parents who left me and never came back. But I didn't feel like I was lying anymore. I wasn't that girl. I was Emma Carter now. The name on my school ID, on my homework, on my future. Every year on my birthday, Grace gave me a small gift. Nothing big. A used novel, a scarf, a necklace made of tiny silver beads. She never asked how I liked to celebrate. She just left the gift on the table in the morning, and I'd quietly say, "Thank you." Then one day a letter came. I recognized the handwriting right away. It was sharp and rushed, my mother's. It was addressed to Emily, not Emma. I froze in the doorway, the letter in my hand. My heart beat loud in my ears. I didn't open it. I didn't show Grace. I just slipped it into the back of my drawer under my socks. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. The past wasn't gone. It knew where I lived. But I wasn't the girl it remembered. I was someone new now. Someone who had survived, who had built something from the pieces. I had a routine, a home, a future. I didn't need answers from people who'd laughed while walking away from me. I tucked the letter away and got ready for school the next morning, because Emma Carter had a test to pass, and I planned to ace it. I was 23, the day everything cracked open again. It was a regular Thursday. The sky was cloudy, and the bookstore smelled like dust and cinnamon, just the way I liked it. I had been working there for over a year, organizing shelves, helping customers, and drinking too much tea behind the counter. It wasn't glamorous, but it was quiet, safe, mine. At 13, Emily was abandoned on a train station bench by the parents she trusted most, and left to survive a city that never noticed. 10 years later, she's reinvented herself as Emma Carter, finding safety in a shelter, a foster home, and a quiet bookstore life of her own making. But when her long-lost father's voice finally cracks the silence with 40 unanswered calls, Emma must choose between the family she's left behind and the unbreakable person she's become. That evening, I closed up a little late. A couple had gotten into a long conversation about poetry, and I didn't have the heart to rush them. When I finally locked the door, the street was nearly empty. The air felt heavier than usual. My phone buzzed in my jacket pocket. I ignored it at first, probably a reminder or spam, but it kept buzzing. I pulled it out. 40 missed calls, all from the same unknown number. 40, not 4, not 14, 40. I stared at the screen like it was a ghost. Then came the voicemail notification. One new message. I shouldn't have listened. I should have deleted it and walked away. But my thumb moved on its own. Beep. Emily. Emily. It's Dad. I dropped the phone. My breath caught in my throat. I hadn't heard that voice in 10 years. Not since the train station. Not since he smiled and said, "We'll be right back." My legs felt weak. I sat down hard on the bottom step in front of the bookstore. My heart pounded so loud I couldn't hear the rest of the city. It was just me, the street lamp humming above me, and the sound of my father's voice replaying in my mind. "Emily, we found you. Please call us." They'd used my real name. Not Emma, not the name I'd chosen and built my life on. Emily. How did they find me? Did someone recognize me? Did someone from the shelter talk? Follow a paper trail? Had they been looking all these years? I didn't know. I couldn't think. I picked up the phone again. My fingers hovered over the screen. Should I call back? Should I block the number? I did neither. Instead, I walked, all the way home, past closed bakeries and flickering neon signs. I didn't notice the wind, or the cars, or the people rushing by. I just walked, clutching my phone like it might explode. When I got home, I locked the door, pulled the curtains, and sat on my bed in the dark. 40 missed calls, 10 years of silence, and now this. I opened the drawer beside my bed and pulled out the letter I'd hidden years ago, the one addressed to Emily. My hands shook as I held it, just like they had the day it arrived. I had never opened it. I still didn't. I pressed it to my chest and closed my eyes. I thought about Teresa and the sandwich she gave me. I thought about the shelter, about Carlos and his calm voice. I thought about Grace and her quiet love, her rules, her steadiness. I thought about the first time I made my own money, the first time I felt proud of who I was, and then I thought about the train station, the cold bench, the hours alone, the moment I realized they weren't coming back. Now they'd found me. But I wasn't that little girl anymore. I was 23. I had a job, a home, a life I'd built without them. I looked down at the phone one more time. It buzzed again. Same number. Same name I hadn't heard in a decade, still echoing in my ears. Emily. I sat there in the dark, knees pulled to my chest, watching the screen light up, then fade, light up, then fade again and again. But I didn't answer. Instead, I placed the phone face down on the table. I walked to the window and pulled the curtain aside just enough to see the street below. Quiet, peaceful, the same bookstore across the road, the same flickering street lamp humming outside. Everything looked the same, but nothing felt the same. For 10 years, I'd lived my life in layers. The first layer was survival, the second was silence, the third was growth. And now this call tried to peel everything back to the beginning, to the girl sitting on a train station bench, waiting for her parents to come back. I wasn't her anymore. I walked to my desk drawer and took out the envelope, my mother's. Handwriting, waiting patiently under my socks for years. It felt like it was pulsing in my hand. I sat down slowly and opened it for the first time. Inside was a single sheet of paper. No photo, no return address, just words. Emily, we don't know if this will reach you. We've tried everything, hired people, called shelters, nothing. We thought you'd come home. We thought you'd figure it out and come back, but you didn't. And now we don't know how to fix it. I know what we did was wrong. I know we laughed when we shouldn't have. It was supposed to be a joke, a lesson, something you'd remember and laugh about. Later. We didn't know you wouldn't come back. We miss you. If you ever read this, please come home. Love, Mom. I stared at the paper for a long time. They thought it was a joke, a lesson. I folded the letter slowly and slid it back into the envelope. Then I opened the bottom drawer and placed it under everything. Old papers, journals, faded receipts, like I was burying it because that's what I needed to do. I wasn't angry, not anymore. I was just done. Done carrying that weight, done wondering if it was my fault, done hoping they'd say sorry in a way that mattered. I had spent 10 years learning how to live without them, how to build something steady, how to become someone I actually liked waking up as, Emma Carter. Not a perfect person, but a whole one. I walked back to the table and looked at my phone again. It lit up once more. Call number 41. I watched the name on the screen, pressed the side button, and turned it face down. I let it ring. Then I poured myself a cup of tea, opened my favorite book, curled up on the couch, and pulled the blanket around me. And in that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in a very long time: peace. On the night of her long-awaited promotion celebration, Marina's perfect life is upended when her own husband and sister confess an affair. But by dawn, she wields a forgotten prenuptial agreement that strips them of every penny, turning betrayal into her greatest triumph. During dinner, my sister said she was pregnant and that the father was my husband. But then I revealed a secret. You know when you think you know the people closest to you? When you believe that no matter what problems exist, certain lines would never be crossed? Well, I thought so too. My name is Marina. I'm 29 years old, and this is the story of how I discovered that some people are capable of anything to get what they want. It was a Thursday in March when I received news of my promotion. After 4 years working as a project manager at a tech company in Austin, Texas, I would finally be commercial director. I couldn't stop smiling at the office. I called David, my husband, and Beatrice, my younger sister, to share the joy. Let's celebrate at Terzo tonight, I suggested. Terzo was that chic Italian restaurant where a meal cost more than minimum wage, but I could afford it. I worked hard for this. I arrived first, wearing that navy blue dress David always said looked perfect on me. I chose a table in a secluded corner. I wanted privacy to celebrate. The dining room was full of executives and elegant couples, the kind of environment where I felt comfortable after years of building my career. When I saw them arriving together, I found it strange. Beatrice was radiant, wearing a smile I hadn't seen in a long time. And David seemed nervous. He always got a bit uncomfortable in expensive places. But there was something different that night, an intensity in the air I couldn't identify. Congratulations on the promotion, Mari, Beatrice said, hugging me with suspicious effusiveness. She was never this demonstrative, especially with me. We ordered a $200 bottle of Chianti, and I began telling them about the new projects I would lead, the 40% salary increase, the possibilities for international growth. Beatrice listened with intense attention. David kept fidgeting with his napkin. We also have news to share, Beatrice interrupted mid-sentence. She reached across the table and took David's hand. My stomach twisted. I'm pregnant, she announced. The world stopped. Literally. The restaurant voices became a distant buzz. The lights flickered as I stared at their intertwined hands, my sister's and my husband's, as if it were a mirage. Pregnant, I whispered. Beatrice nodded, running her hand over her still flat belly. 3 months, she said. It started right after your birthday. My birthday had been in December. It was now May. 3 months of betrayal, 3 months of lies, 3 months of them laughing at me while I worked 12-hour days to earn the promotion I had so wanted to share with the people I loved. Marina, say something? David asked, his voice coming after an eternity of silence. For the first time in years, I really looked at him. The man I'd married 4 years ago. He looked relieved, as if a weight had been lifted from his shoulders. What do you want me to say? I asked, my voice strangely calm. Congratulations, Beatrice laughed, nervous, but genuine. Look, Mari, I know it's not easy, but these things happen. Love is love, right? And the baby? She ran her hand over her belly again. The baby needs both parents together. I picked up my purse slowly, left 2 $50 bills on the table, more than enough to cover my share of the bill, and stood. I'm going home. You do whatever you want. As I walked toward the exit, I heard David calling my name, but I didn't turn around. In the wall mirror, I saw their reflection still seated. Beatrice was smiling. Throughout childhood, Beatrice had lived in my shadow, and it had irritated her deeply. I was the older daughter, the responsible one, who got good grades effortlessly. She was the youngest, the spoiled one, whom our parents protected from everything, but it was never enough for her. We grew up in a middle-class family in San Antonio. Our father worked as an accountant at an oil company. Our mother was an elementary school teacher. We weren't rich, but we lacked nothing. Even so, Beatrice always felt she deserved more. When I earned a full scholarship to study business administration at the University of Texas, Beatrice called it rich girl's luck. When I graduated with honors and got an internship at a multinational in Austin, she said I had known how to sell myself. When I bought my first apartment at 25, she asked if I wasn't being too ambitious. The worst part was she truly believed she deserved what I had, without the effort. As if success were a matter of luck or favoritism, not hard work and sacrifice. Beatrice studied graphic design at a public university, graduated without distinction, and since then bounced from job to job, always complaining that bosses didn't recognize her potential. Our parents tried to balance things out. When I bought my Honda Civic, they bought her a used one. When I earned more, they increased her rent subsidy in San Antonio. as if compensating for my success meant keeping her on par. She was always curious about my salary, my investments, the apartment's value. Just sisterly curiosity, she said. But there was a calculating intensity in her questions I preferred to ignore. When I met David at a work party 5 years ago, Beatrice remarked, "He's not your type. He was handsome, kind, sold BMWs, and made a reasonable living, around $5,000 a month with commissions, but nothing compared to my $12,000 salary. Still, I fell in love. He was fun, affectionate, made me laugh." After stressful days at the office, Beatrice was always polite to him, but I noticed tension, especially over bills. David sometimes blushed, paying for my expensive tastes. Beatrice observed all this with a calculating look I recognized but preferred to ignore. "You support him, don't you?" she once asked when he slipped away to the restroom at Olive Garden. "I don't support him," I replied. "We split things proportionally." But to Beatrice, that was proof I had too much luck. A brilliant career, a beautiful apartment, a dedicated husband, investments growing every month. As if my achievements had fallen from the sky. I got home that night to find the apartment exactly how I left it. Bed made, dishes washed, everything in place. Strange how life could fall apart and still remain perfectly neat. David did not come home that night, of course. At 2 a.m, I received a message. "I'm at B's house. We'll talk tomorrow. B." He called my sister B, as if they'd been intimate for years, as if I didn't exist, as if our 4-year marriage were merely an inconvenient obstacle that had finally been removed. I spent the night pacing the 120 square meters of my apartment, trying to understand how I'd gotten here. How hadn't I seen the signs? His late nights. Beatrice's curious visits to Austin. She always stayed in hotels, never on my couch anymore. When the sun rose, I was still on the couch, my dress wrinkled, makeup smeared. 17 missed calls. From Mom. Beatrice had told her everything, doubtless in a romanticized version where they were two lovers fated to be together. I called my office and said I wouldn't be in. Simone, my assistant, sensed something was wrong but didn't press it. "Call me if you need anything," she said. "You never miss work." I took a long, hot shower, tried to wash away that sticky, betrayed feeling. Under the water, I finally cried. Not movie tears, but the exhausted sobs of someone who'd just lost 2 people they loved most. When I emerged, I had 3 messages from Beatrice. "Mari, we need to talk. It wasn't how we wanted you to find out. Call me, please. I know it's difficult, but we can resolve this like adults." I deleted them all without responding. For the first time in years, I spent the entire day doing nothing productive, watching Netflix, ordering cold Chinese food, ignoring my phone that rang every 2 hours. That night, David came to retrieve some clothes. He still had my keys. Entering my apartment as if nothing had happened, he tried to explain. "It just happened, Mari. We fell in love." I watched him pack his things. "How long?" I asked. 4 months, he admitted, folding the polo shirts I'd bought him at Nordstrom. 4 months of lies, empty I love yous, I said, while I worked to earn this promotion. He stopped packing and looked at me. "What do you want me to do?" he asked quietly. "I'm going to find a lawyer," I told him, nodding toward the bed I'd bought alone. "And I want this over. Quickly." He left 2 suitcases behind, promising to return for the rest. I called Helena, my best friend since college and a family law attorney in Houston. She listened quietly as I told her everything. When I finished, she sighed. "Marina, I'm so sorry. I know how much you loved him and trusted your sister." She paused. "About the divorce. I need all the marriage documents, bank statements, deeds, proof of income, investments, everything. I'll build the best case possible." "Helena," I said, voice cracking, "I don't care about the money. I just want it over." "Don't say that," she replied. "You fought hard to build what you have. You're not giving it away to someone who betrayed you." She was right. I pulled myself together and scheduled a meeting for the following week. Then I remembered I needed to organize my documents. Who thinks about divorce when they're happily married? Yet there I was, rifling through my filing system in the 2nd-bedroom office. Colored folders labeled by year, bank statements, tax, returns, investment portfolios. I was proud of what I'd built, but now it felt fragile, as if a betrayal could erase everything. I found the green folder of marriage documents, birth certificates, our marriage license from Travis County. My stomach twisted when I saw the notation. Separate property regime. Most Texas couples choose community property. Why had I chosen complete separation? Then I remembered, a prenuptial agreement. I went to the small safe in my closet and pulled out the sealed envelope from the Travis County clerk's office. My hands trembled as I opened it. The contract was clear. Complete separation of assets. Each spouse keeps everything they owned before and acquired during the marriage, no division upon divorce. Spousal support waiver. Neither party may claim alimony. Debt separation. Each party is responsible for their own debts. I sat on the edge of the bed, reeling. David had signed away any right to my apartment, investments, bonuses, or alimony, without even reading it. My net worth at 29 was over $600,000. A $400,000 apartment, $100,000 in investments, $50,000 in startup equity, $40,000 in savings, and a paid-off car worth $20,000. All mine, bulletproof. I messaged Helena photos of the signed agreement. "This changes everything," she replied. "Call me tomorrow." For the first time in days, I slept. 6 months later, the divorce was final. David didn't contest. It would have been hopeless. I was free on a sunny July morning. I threw myself into my work and thrived. As commercial director, I smashed targets, earning bonuses that pushed my monthly income to $22,000. My startup stake tripled. By October, I bought a new 3-bedroom loft, $700,000, all cash. I renovated it with a gym, home theater, and panoramic lake views. I traveled alone to Paris, Rome, Barcelona, first-class boutique hotels, Michelin-starred dinners. The loneliness I expected never came. After betrayal, the peace of solitude was almost addictive. No one to disappoint, no one to hide from. I began therapy with Dr. Rebecca Chen, who told me, "You grew up thinking you had to take care of everyone. When was the last time someone took care of you?" Her words unlocked something. I realized I'd spent my life supporting others at my own expense. By my 30th birthday, I'd settled into a fulfilling life. A shining career, financial independence, and a partner who valued me equally. Daniel, an architect with his own successful firm. My parents and Beatrice eventually faced the consequences of their choices. David lost his job in year-end cuts and now earned half as much. Beatrice moved back in with our parents, struggling to find work while raising a daughter, Sophia, who will never know the peace I found. They live on child support and my parents' retirement, a lesson in shortcuts and self-inflicted hardship. I learned that real love doesn't steal your dignity. It builds with you. Family isn't just blood. It's who stands by you when everything falls apart. I continued donating to Sophia's medical bills, but never to Beatrice or David directly. My loyalty is to my values, not to those who betrayed me. 3 years after that fateful dinner at Terzo, I reflect on how that night was actually the best gift life gave me. It forced me to discover my worth, to set boundaries, and to protect what I'd built. Today, I live my life fully. No apologies, no regrets, just gratitude for the strength betrayal revealed in me. And that is the truth of my story. For 13 years, I lived unseen in a concrete-walled basement while my identical sisters grew up on flickering security monitors, born not as a daughter but as a spare parts contingency, a hidden fourth child destined for organ harvesting, until, one night at 3 a.m., they shattered their bedroom window to expose our parents' multi-million-dollar insurance fraud and set me free. My parents told everyone they had triplets, but kept me hidden in the basement. As the fourth, a backup child for spare parts, I watched my identical sisters live their lives through security cameras for 13 years. While Mom drew my blood for compatibility tests when they tried to harvest my kidney for my sixth sister, all 3 triplets helped me escape by shattering their bedroom window at 3 a.m., revealing to the neighbors that their parents had been claiming $2.8 million in insurance for triplets while hiding a fourth child as a living organ bank. My parents told everyone they had triplets. I was the fourth, the backup child they kept hidden in case something happened to the others. I lived in the basement, watching my sisters' lives through security cameras. They'd sneak down at night to bring me food and teach me what they learned at school. On our 13th birthday, when the others got cake upstairs, they brought me a single candle. "Make a wish to get out," they whispered. "But how do you escape when you don't officially exist?" The basement became my whole world the day we came home from the hospital. While my siblings got birth certificates, I got a storage room with a mattress. "Insurance covers 3 babies," Mom explained simply. 4 would bankrupt us. "But we're keeping you safe down here, just in case." Just in case? I didn't understand. I watched my sisters grow up on a flickering monitor. First steps, first words, first day of school. They were labeled on the screen. Lily, camera 1, Emma, camera 2, Olivia, camera 3. I didn't have a camera. I didn't have a name. Mom called me Spare when she remembered to bring food. The insurance papers were kept in a lockbox by my bed. I learned to read from those documents. Maximum coverage for triplet birth, $2.8 million. Quadruplet birth, $50,000 total. Beneath that, another line made my stomach twist. Rare blood type O negative, universal donor. Perfect match probability among identical siblings, 100%. My sisters discovered me by accident when we were 5. They'd been playing hide and seek when Emma found the basement door. 3 identical faces stared at me through the crack. "Are you our ghost?" Lily whispered. That night, and every night after, they crept down with whatever they could steal from dinner. Olivia taught me to read better. Emma showed me math. Lily brought her drawings and taped them to my walls. "Why don't you live upstairs?" they asked. "Because I'm the emergency one," I repeated what I'd been told. They didn't understand. Neither did I, really, until Olivia got sick. She was 8 when the doctors discovered kidney problems. I watched on the monitors as our parents paced the living room. "We have options," Mom said. "We've been smart. We've been prepared." That night, my sisters didn't come down. I could see them on the screens, huddled in their room, crying. The next morning, Dad came to the basement with a medical kit. "Just some tests," he said. The needle hurt as 6 blood vials filled. One by one, then he checked my eyes, my reflexes, pressed on my stomach where my kidneys rested. "Perfect," he muttered. "Absolutely perfect." Olivia got better with medication. After that, the basement door locked from the outside, and my sisters began leaving notes under the door. "We're trying to find a way. We won't let them hurt you. You're our sister, not spare parts." Years passed in that room. I exercised to stay healthy, had to keep my spare parts in good condition. I studied from old textbooks they smuggled down. I watched them go to school, make friends, live their lives. Every birthday, 3 candles upstairs, 1 candle downstairs, same wish every year. When we turned 12, Emma broke her arm so badly the bone pierced the skin. On the monitor, I watched our parents exchange looks. Dad's hand went to his pocket, where he kept the basement key. "No," I whispered to the empty room. "Please, no." But Emma healed cleanly. The key stayed in his pocket. The worst part wasn't isolation or scraps or concrete. It was watching life through a screen, knowing I existed only as insurance, a ghost child waiting to be harvested. They tried to tell someone once. Lily broke down to her teacher about her other sister. The school called our parents that night. I watched Mom explain Lily's imaginary quadruplet as a trauma response. So creative, so troubled, and therapy was recommended. The basement door's lock was upgraded to digital. On our 13th birthday, I sat in the dark, listening to the party upstairs, laughter, music, voices of kids I'd never meet. At midnight, my sisters snuck down with a cupcake and 1 candle in the darkness. "Make a wish," they said, tears streaming down 3 identical faces. "Wish to get out. We're going to help you. We promise." I closed my eyes, blew out the candle, and wished to exist. But morning came, and I was still in the basement, still watching life through grainy screens, still the emergency child, the spare parts, the ghost only 3 people knew was real. Mom came down that afternoon, with her medical kit again. More tests, more vials. "Just checking everything's working properly," she said. "Can never be too prepared." She paused at the door, looking back at me. "You know you're loved, right? We kept you. We could have given you away. But we kept you, that's love." The door locked behind her, the red light blinked. In that moment, I knew I had a decision to make. One that would change not just my life, but my sisters' lives forever. I started small. Every time Mom or Dad came down for tests, I memorized their routines. Dad checked his phone exactly 3 times each visit. Mom hummed the same tune while drawing blood. They were creatures of habit, and habits could be exploited. The cameras became my teachers. Dad left for work at 7:43 a.m. and returned at 6:17 p.m. Mom grocery shopped on Tuesdays and had book club on Thursdays. They fought about money on the 15th of each month when bills came due. My sisters noticed the change first. During nightly visits, they found me doing push-ups, sit-ups, running, in place. I had to stay strong, not just as spare parts, but as someone who could fight back. They smuggled a notebook under the door. We developed a code. 1 tap on the pipes meant parents awake, 2 taps meant all clear, 3 meant emergency. The notebook became our planning document, passed back and forth. I drew diagrams of the house from memory and camera angles, marked exit points and hiding spots, blind zones where cameras couldn't see. My sisters filled in details, which floorboards creaked, which windows opened silently, where Dad kept his keys. The first real test came 3 weeks later. Olivia had a swim meet on Saturday. Both parents would attend, leaving from noon to 4 p.m. 4 hours of opportunity. I'd practiced picking the digital lock with hairpins Emma smuggled down. That morning, I watched them leave on the monitors and counted to 300 to make sure they really were gone. Then I worked the lock. Hands shaking, muscle memory took over. Click, click. The red light turned green. The door opened for the first time in 5 years without an adult present. The basement stairs looked impossibly tall. I climbed them slowly, legs trembling from more than exertion. At the top, another door, this one unlocked. I pushed it open and stepped into a kitchen I'd only seen through screens. Everything was wrong. The proportions, the colors, the smells. Real life didn't match grainy footage. I touched the counter, the refrigerator, a chair, solid, real. Proof I wasn't dreaming. I wanted to explore, but time was limited. I found Dad's study, searched his desk, insurance papers, medical records, bank statements, and photographed everything with an old digital camera Emma had hidden months ago. Evidence, proof I existed. In Mom's closet, I found a box labeled Baby Memories, 3 hospital bracelets, 3 birth certificates, 3 sets of footprints. Nothing for a 4th child. Until I found 1 more bracelet wrapped in tissue. Baby girl D. Same date and time plus 3 minutes. I existed. I had proof. The garage door rumbled. Panic flooded my veins. I ran. Back through the house, staying low beneath motion sensors. The basement door was still open. I slammed it behind me, but from inside the code wouldn't engage. The red light blinked. I'd practiced opening it, not closing it. I yanked open the ventilation grate and squeezed inside, pulling it closed behind me. Metal edges cut my shoulders as I forced myself deeper. Mom's car pulled into the driveway 2 minutes later. I watched her on the monitors. She moved through. Her routine, oblivious. But Emma knew. During dinner, she kept glancing at the basement door. That night, she slipped me a note. They came home because Emma called them, said she felt sick. We bought you time. My sisters had created a distraction. They were learning conspiracy. Over the weeks, we refined our system. Lily started Saturday art classes, another window. Emma joined debate club after school. Olivia volunteered at the hospital, bringing bandages and antiseptic. I practiced escaping through vents. Narrow, but my years of limited food kept me small. I mapped every turn, every junction, timed how long it took to reach different rooms. I learned to remove grates silently. Mom grew suspicious. She started random checks, strange questions. Do you ever think about leaving? Do you know why you're special? I kept my face blank. I'm safe here. I understand. That night, she installed a new camera in my room, hid the monitor in her closet. Something deeply unsettling about how matter-of-factly she treated me as spare parts, justifying horror to herself. My sisters grew bolder, talking loudly about their imaginary sister at school, drawing pictures of 4 girls. The school counselor called another meeting. This time, all 3 went and told the same story. A sister in the basement, parents who lied, a girl who existed only as spare parts. The counselor diagnosed shared delusion and trauma bonding, recommended family therapy. My parents declined, we'll handle it at home, and then divided us. Lily to the guest room, Emma and Olivia forbidden from spending time together unsupervised. But identical souls adapt. Notes grew more elaborate. Lily painted hidden messages. Emma encoded plans in math problems. Olivia printed patient rights documents on the library computer. I studied every page. Knowledge became ammunition. Through the cameras I learned, Dad's business was failing. Mom's book club was a wine club. They fought about money more. Their desperation made them vulnerable. Then Emma got sick. Not a broken arm, truly sick. Fever, unrelenting, swollen joints. At 3:00 a.m., I watched them rush her to the hospital. That dawn, Dad carried the medical kit. Mom brought consent forms. Just a precaution, she said. You understand, right? She's your sister. My heart cracked. I understood that my existence had always been about this moment, spare parts fulfilling purpose or letting a sister suffer. They ran more tests than ever. Emma's illness turned out autoimmune, treatable, not transplant-worthy, but testing. Continued. Better safe than sorry, Mom said. My sister's anger transformed into strategy. They started planning for war, smuggled pics in paint tubes, wire cutters in textbooks, medical supplies from Olivia's volunteering. We practiced ventilation escapes. I broke into mental first aid kits, bandages, antiseptic stashed in backpacks. A Thursday, Dad left for a business trip, 13 hours away. Mom would be gone Saturday from 9 pause to 5 for a fundraiser, 16 hours of chance. We spent the week preparing. Strengthened my fingers, memorized sensor patterns, timed everybody's routines. Thursday dawned. Dad waved goodbye at 5:47 a.m. Mom followed at 6:15 a.m. Breakfast, tests, admonitions, to be good. The basement door beeped locked. I counted to 500, then began. Hairpins, practice lock, click click, green light. The door swung open silently on hinges I convinced Mom needed oiling. I ducked under motion sensors and into the house I'd only seen through screens. The kitchen glowed. In daylight. Sunlight streamed through windows, warmth on my skin. I wanted to stand in that light, but time pressed. I found Mom's purse, her car keys jingled. In Dad's study, I grabbed the evidence photos. In Mom's closet, I found 4 identical baby outfits. Proof she'd always planned for me. A car, door slammed outside. My heart nearly stopped. I scrambled through the house back to the basement. But Mom's motion sensors, her new cameras. The basement door was unlocked. I slammed it, but the lock wouldn't engage. The red light blinked. I yanked open a vent and squeezed into the ducts just as Mom's heels clicked in the kitchen. Through the grate, I saw her face go pale. She spun and ran upstairs, then returned with tools, drill, brackets, methodically securing every grate in the basement, sealing me into the walls. Hours passed in the metal tomb. My shoulders cramped, breathing shallow. Dust coated my throat. I watched her hum her blood draw tune as she drilled. When she finished, she stood in my room's center and spoke into the ceiling. She'd always known this day would come, that brackets were temporary until Dad returned, then they'd extract me properly, without damage to the merchandise. She left water bottles and energy bars on my mattress, a gesture of kindness she called proof of love, and went upstairs to wait. Through the ducts, I heard my sister's return. Normal conversation, no hint of the drama below. Night fell. The metal grew cold. My body screamed, but I waited and planned. Around midnight, I heard soft scratching. A bracket loosened, a grate lifted. Olivia's face appeared in the vent, tears streaming. She guided me up into the laundry room, helped me clean the cuts from metal edges. Emma's keeping watch. Lily created a distraction by faking sickness early, so Mom checked on her instead of the basement, but we couldn't leave. Mom activated the security system, doors and windows armed, code changed. We were trapped until morning. Olivia led me to their room where Emma and Lily waited, faces pale but determined. We huddled, 4 identical girls, planning in whispers, money saved, a backpack of supplies, emergency contacts. The plan was to run together when Mom opened the door at dawn, get to a neighbor's house, call for help, but plans rarely survive first contact with reality. At 3 a.m., Mom opened the door not for dawn, but for confrontation. Silhouetted, in the hallway light, she held the medical kit. Her eyes found me immediately. No words needed. Come willingly, or watch your sisters suffer. I started to stand. Emma grabbed my arm, Lily blocked my path. Olivia stepped between me and our mother, 3 identical shields of determination. Mom's expression shifted, surprise, anger, fear. She hadn't expected unified resistance. 1 disobedient daughter was manageable, 4 was a crisis. She tried reasoning about family loyalty, sacrifices, love requiring difficult choices. My sisters didn't budge. The standoff stretched until Mom's phone buzzed. Dad texting from his hotel. Distracted, Mom glanced at the screen, and in that instant, Emma lunged for the medical kit, sending it clattering to the floor. Chaos erupted. Mom lunged at Emma. Lily pushed her back. Olivia pulled me toward the broken window. The security alarm screeched as Olivia smashed the glass with a lamp. Motion lights flooded the yard. Dogs barked. The outside world intruded on our secret. Mom froze, seeing 4 identical girls barefoot in the backyard at 3 a.m. 1 dusty, 1 bleeding, 1 who'd lived in walls. Neighbors gathered. Mr. Dunn stepped onto his porch. "Everything's fine," Mom called, forcing a strained wave. "Just a small accident. Sorry for the noise." But 4 identical girls in the yard defied explanation. Mom realized her story crumbling. She made one last plea. "Come back inside, all of us together." My sisters formed a resolute wall. Mom lowered her arms, walked back to the house, defeated or strategic, I couldn't tell. We spent the night at Mr. Dunn's house. He offered blankets and hot chocolate. His wife fussed over my injuries. We watched through the window as Mom served dinner to my sisters, tucked them in. The perfect mother. Dawn brought Dad's early return at 6 a.m. Mom must have called him. Through Mr. Dunn's window, we watched our parents argue on the lawn. Dad's gestures were angry, Mom's pleading. Then Dad spotted us watching. His face went from shock to grief. He moved toward Mr. Dunn's, but Mom caught his arm, and they, retreated inside. Moments later, a woman in a suit arrived. The Child Protective Services agent. Reports the girls filed had triggered an investigation. 4 identical children, 1 undocumented, medical tests without consent, educational neglect. Our house became a crime scene. Investigators carried out evidence from the basement. First, they brought me to the hospital. 13 years of basement living left its mark. Vitamin deficiencies, muscle weakness, dental problems, all treatable. My sisters took turns holding my hand, translating medical jargon, reminding me I was real. Over the following months, birth certificates were issued, custody hearings held, criminal charges filed. Sitting in a hospital bed, sunlight streaming, through windows, surrounded by sisters who risked everything for me, I realized I existed not as insurance, but as a person with rights, choices, and a future. The legal proceedings continued. Mom and Dad pled guilty to fraud, child endangerment, and unlawful imprisonment. Restitution funds from the insurance fraud formed a trust for our education. We moved to a therapeutic foster home that welcomed sibling groups. 4 bedrooms in an east wing of a converted farmhouse, foster parents experienced in trauma cases. They gave us space to adjust, time to learn how to live with choices. School was challenging. We tutored, caught up on missing years, filled gaps. Physical therapy rebuilt my body. Counseling healed my mind. Our first Christmas free of locks. 4 identical ornaments on the tree. Gifts exchanged equally. Ordinary. Moments felt revolutionary. Spring brought birthdays, GED tests, high school graduations. We found colleges and majors. The trust fund, our parents' crime inadvertently funding our futures. On our 18th birthday, we signed leases for an apartment near community college. 4 bedrooms, no basement, windows that opened wide, security for safety, not imprisonment. We furnished it, painting walls, choosing furniture, each decision our own. The first day of classes, I sat in a crowded lecture hall, anonymous in the best way. Afterward, we met for lunch in the cafeteria, visible to everyone, no longer divided by floors and locks. My sister spoke of engineering, art history, and pre-med requirements. I prepared for community college, choosing classes for a future I'd fought to claim. That night, I typed a personal essay on overcoming challenges. I spent 13 years preparing for a life I wasn't supposed to have. The words flowed, testimony that survival takes many forms, that families can be prisons and love can be locks, and that simply existing can be an act of rebellion. As midnight approached, I saved the document, closed my laptop, and opened the window to let in the night air. City lights twinkled with possibility. No cameras watched, no locks confined me. I set my alarm for morning classes and fell asleep listening to my sisters breathing in nearby rooms. No longer spare parts, but whole people choosing freedom every day. At midnight, when the halls were silent and the freezer's hum was the only sound, my grandmother stood over me, with a turkey baster in one hand and 20 vials of my grandfather's sperm in the other, whispering that I was the only vessel left to resurrect him, while my parents watched like ghosts, too frightened to help. My sister disabled the smoke alarms because noise hurt her feelings. When I dragged her out of the fire, she started screaming. She had me arrested for assault. When I begged my parents to finally protect me, my mother whispered, "We just want peace in the house." So I stopped speaking. Last night, she sent me a photo of our old living room, blackened and gutted, captioned, "Do you feel better now?" My grandmother demanded I carry my dead grandfather's baby. She'd saved his frozen sperm for 40 years and said I needed to use it to get pregnant immediately to keep his legacy alive. My grandmother had always been obsessed with my grandfather, who died before I was born. She kept his clothes in their bedroom, set his place at dinner, and talked to his photographs like he was still alive. When I was young, I thought it was sweet how much she loved him. She'd tell me I had his eyes, his hands, his spirit. She said I was more his granddaughter than anyone else because I carried his essence. I didn't understand why she made me sit in his old chair or wear his reading glasses until I turned 18. Then she finally revealed her plan. That's when she took me to the basement freezer I'd never been allowed to open. "This freezer is full of dry ice and your grandfather's legacy," she said. 20 vials of his perfect sperm. I've been waiting for the right vessel. Someone who shares his bloodline but is young and pure enough to carry his seed properly. He always wanted more children, she said. You're going to make that dream come true. When I recoiled in horror, she gripped my shoulders. Don't you understand? You get to bring him back. Part of him will walk this earth again. And you're the only one who can do it. Your eggs plus his sperm equals resurrection. She'd already scheduled appointments at a fertility clinic that didn't ask questions. The first insemination is next week. I ran straight to my parents, but they already knew. It's what he would have wanted, my mother said, not meeting my eyes. I packed a bag that night, but my grandmother had disabled my car and hidden the keys. When I tried walking to the bus station, my father followed me in his truck and brought me home. Where would you even go? He asked. She'll find you anywhere. I called the police, but what could I say that didn't sound insane? The operator suggested family counseling. I tried destroying the freezer, but my grandmother had moved the vials to multiple locations. She showed me photos of many fridges in her friends' houses and safety deposit boxes at different banks. 20 years of planning, she said. You think I'd keep them all in one place? The fertility clinic she'd chosen operated out of a strip mall. I went there alone, planning to tell them everything, but the doctor was her old friend from nursing school. Your grandmother explained. Your nervousness, he said, patting my hand. It's natural to be scared about pregnancy, but family is everything. I realized she'd built an entire network to trap me. 3 days before the appointment, I faked appendicitis to get to the hospital, but she came with me. When I tried to tell the nurses, she explained I had anxiety about trying for a baby, and they nodded sympathetically. Every escape route led back to her. She'd made me invisible to anyone who might help. The night before the clinic appointment, I barricaded my door with furniture. She pounded on it, screaming that I was keeping Grandpa waiting. I heard her dragging something heavy down the hallway. She'd brought her portable freezer to my door, sobbing about how the samples might thaw if I didn't come out immediately. 40 years I've kept him alive in there, she wailed. 40 years of paying for storage, checking temperatures, protecting his future. You think you can destroy that with a locked door? The pounding stopped. Then I heard drilling. She was removing my door from its hinges while crooning my grandfather's favorite song. I went to my window, but she'd nailed boards across the outside while I slept. The room had become a cage. My phone was dead. The charger was mysteriously missing. She'd planned this for years, and I'd walked right into it. The door fell, inward, with a crash. She stood in my doorway holding a turkey baster and a cooler, her nightgown splattered with something. If you won't go to the clinic, she said calmly, we'll do this the old-fashioned way. Your grandfather didn't believe in modern medicine anyway. Behind her, my parents stood like zombies, trained to never interfere with her will. I tried to push past them, but my father grabbed me. He was crying as he held my arms. Just let her do it, he whispered. She'll never stop, she'll never let you go. My mother helped drag me to my bed while my grandmother prepared her supplies with practiced efficiency. I was a nurse before I met your grandfather, she said, drawing the thawed sperm into a syringe. I can get you pregnant in my sleep. She approached with a syringe like it was a sacred ritual. Your grandfather was the only man who ever mattered. I'm not waiting one more minute for his dreams to come true. I thrashed, but my parents held me down. My grandmother pushed my legs apart with clinical detachment. She kissed the vial like a holy relic. You're coming back to me now, sweetheart. Then she positioned the syringe between my legs. My mother turned her face away but kept her grip on my ankles. The room spun. The last thing I saw before I passed out was my grandmother preparing her turkey baster. When I woke up on my bed, I was still dressed and sunlight streamed through the gaps in the boarded windows. My body ached from struggling against my parents' grip. The memory of last night crashed over me like ice water. My grandmother, the syringe, the turkey baster. I shot upright, checking myself frantically. Everything seemed normal. Had she actually done it? Had I escaped somehow? My bedroom door hung crooked on its hinges. The furniture I'd used as a barricade lay scattered across the floor. On my nightstand sat a glass of orange juice and a note in my grandmother's spidery handwriting. Drink this, sweetheart. You need your vitamins now. I stumbled to my feet, legs shaking. The house was eerily quiet. Through my doorway, I saw the hallway stretching toward the stairs. No sign of my family. I crept forward, avoiding the creaky floorboard near my dresser. In the kitchen, my grandmother hummed, while scrambling eggs. She wore her favorite apron, the one with embroidered roses that my grandfather had given her. My parents sat at the table, staring at their coffee cups like they held the secrets of the universe. My grandmother turned when she heard my footsteps. Her face lit up with a joy that made my skin crawl. She rushed over and placed both hands on my stomach, pressing gently. How are we feeling this morning? Any nausea? That's perfectly normal in early pregnancy. She guided me to a chair before I could pull away. I made your grandfather's favorite breakfast. He always said eggs were brain food for babies. I pushed the plate away. My father's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. My mother traced patterns in her coffee with a spoon, creating tiny whirlpools that went nowhere. I need to use the bathroom, I said. My grandmother's smile never wavered. Of course, dear, but don't lock the door. We wouldn't want you fainting and hitting your head, not in your condition. I walked slowly, testing my body for any sign of what she might have done while I was unconscious. In the bathroom, I found pregnancy tests she'd already laid out on the counter, 5 different brands, all still in their boxes. A sticky note on the mirror read, "Test every morning until we see those beautiful 2 lines." I splashed cold water on my face, trying to think. The bathroom window was painted shut, as it had been for years. Even if I broke it, the drop to the concrete patio would hurt. Maybe hurt the baby she believed was already growing inside me. The thought made me gag. I returned to find my grandmother had pulled out photo albums. She patted the seat beside her on the couch. Come look. At your grandfather when he was young. See if you can spot the resemblance. The photos showed a man I'd never met, frozen in time. Him in his Navy uniform, him holding my infant mother, him standing beside the old Buick he'd restored. In every picture, my grandmother stood beside him, clutching his arm like she was afraid he'd float away. He had the most beautiful hands, she said, tracing his image with one finger. Surgeon's hands, just like yours. She grabbed my wrist, comparing my fingers to the man in the photograph. Perfect match. That baby will have his hands too. I yanked away. There is no baby. Her smile turned pitting. Not yet, but there will be. I made sure of it last night. I gave you something to help you sleep so you wouldn't fight me while I worked. The room tilted. I gripped the couch arm to steady myself. Don't look so worried, she continued. I was very gentle and used proper medical technique. The turkey baster was just for show, to scare you into cooperating. I have professional equipment. 20 years of planning, remember? I've thought of everything. My mother finally looked up from her coffee. Her eyes were red-rimmed and hollow. She's telling the truth, Mom said. I held the flashlight while she worked. It's done, my grandmother added proudly. 3 vials. I wasn't taking any chances. Used 3 whole vials to make sure it took. Your grandfather always said anything worth doing was worth doing right. I ran back to the bathroom and vomited until nothing came up. No vial. My grandmother appeared in the doorway with a cool washcloth and ginger ale. Morning sickness already? That's a wonderful sign. I was sick as a dog when I was pregnant with your mother. Threw up every morning for 3 months straight. She pressed the washcloth to my forehead with practiced care. Your grandfather would make me dry. On a frigid midnight, with my heart pounding so loud I was certain I'd give myself away, I pried open a rotten basement window, clutching nothing but my backpack and the $280 I'd saved from tutoring, because at 13, I'd finally understood that when the person meant to protect you becomes your greatest threat, the only way out is to crawl through the smallest crack in a concrete wall and never look back. I escaped my abusive stepfather through a basement window at 13. But the judge at my custody hearing was his college roommate. He sent me back until his own daughter secretly recorded him taking bribes for custody cases and federal marshals arrested him during his weekly poker game. So I finally got justice. My stepfather received 15 years, and I now help other kids document their abuse in the school library. I ran away when I was 13 and never looked back. My stepfather's punishment room was the basement storage area with concrete floors, no heat, and that musty smell of old boxes. That night, I'd broken his rule about doing homework. After 9 p.m., I had a chemistry test the next day. I thought I was being careful. My desk lamp was almost off, when I felt his hand grab my shoulder. What part of lights out at 9 don't you understand? His voice was quiet. That's what always scared me most. He never raised his voice. I have a chemistry test, I whispered, already knowing it wouldn't matter. 3 days, no food, he said, squeezing my shoulder until I winced. Maybe, then you'll learn to manage your time better. He walked me to the basement and made me watch as he took my textbook and ripped out pages one by one. Clean that up tomorrow, he said, pushing me down the stairs and locking the door. This wasn't new. What was new was the small window I'd been working on for weeks. I'd been loosening the screws since the day he threw my mom down these same stairs. She still told the neighbors she tripped. I knew then that nobody was going to help us. I waited until 3 a.m., listening for his breathing machine. Mom would be knocked out on her anxiety meds by then, her own way of coping. I pushed the window frame and felt it give way. Every creak made my heart pound. It was barely wide enough for my body, but I pushed through, holding only my school backpack. Inside were clothes, my birth certificate, I'd taken it from Mom's filing cabinet, and the $280 I'd saved from tutoring kids at the library. Mrs. Tanaka paid me cash and never mentioned the bruises on my arms. I didn't go to any classmate's house. It would have been too obvious. Instead, I went to school and found the broken gate behind the gym. I crawled into the equipment shed. I'd hidden a sleeping bag there the week before, just in case. For 2 weeks, I lived like this, arriving before the janitors, washing up in the athletic locker room, attending all my classes, tutoring more kids, finding places to sleep. I kept my grades perfect. I stayed invisible. That's the thing about being the smart, quiet kid. Teachers assume you're fine as long as your homework's turned in. Then came the Amber Alert, my face on everyone's phones during English class. I kept my head down, pretending to read my novel. Missing child, possible abduction. That night, my stepfather was on the local news with his arm around my mother, who looked empty, standing next to him. Please, he said, his voice breaking. Perfectly. Please bring our son home. We just want him safe. The same man who dislocated my shoulder while teaching me proper form in Little League. The same man who made our dog sleep outside in winter until it froze to death. The next day was worse. Kids studied their phones, then scanned faces in the hallway. I wore my hoodie up, ate lunch in the bathroom, and kept walking. The librarian, Mrs. Nakamura, caught me dozing in the biography section during my study period. I was tucked behind tall shelves, but she was reshelving books. I saw it in her face. When she recognized me, she didn't say anything, just turned around. I started packing up, ready to run, but she came back. Kenji, she said softly, come to my office, please. I followed her, already planning which exit to use. She closed the door and lowered the blinds. Everyone's looking for you, she said gently. I nodded. Are you safe at home? She asked, studying my face. I almost lied, but then I slowly rolled up my sleeves and showed her the round scars on my forearms from the cigarette burns. His focus lessons. I pulled up my shirt to reveal the belt marks across my back. There's more, I said quietly. But you understand. She didn't call my parents. She called social services. then let me stay in her office until they arrived. She gave me her lunch, rice balls and orange slices, the first real meal I'd had in days. The social workers took pictures, asked questions, recorded everything. For once, adults believed me. The detective told me they found my blood on the basement walls from my failed escape attempts. They found the makeshift toilet bucket in the corner, my mother's medical record showing dozens of suspicious injuries. Everything. My stepdad was arrested that same day. Mrs. Nakamura held my hand as we watched them lead him away in handcuffs. The prosecutor called it an open and shut case, 20 years minimum. The trial date came fast. Mrs. Nakamura sat behind me, in the courtroom. My foster parents were there too. Then the judge walked in. My blood turned to ice. I knew that face. It was in every photo on my stepfather's office wall. The judge looked directly at me and smiled. After reviewing the evidence, he began, "I'm ordering immediate family reunification." My legs wouldn't move. The courtroom walls seemed to close in as those words echoed in my head. Family reunification. The judge's smile never wavered as he continued reading, but all I could hear was static. Mrs. Nakamura shot to her feet behind me, her voice cutting through the fog as she shouted at the judge, demanding he recuse himself. The bailiff moved toward her immediately, hand already reaching for her arm. The prosecutor scrambled through his paperwork, papers flying everywhere, until he pulled out a conflict of interest form. Blank. The judge leaned back, calm. He explained there was no legal obligation to recuse himself from cases involving friends. Of friends, just casual acquaintances. Nothing improper. I caught movement in my peripheral vision. My stepfather adjusted his tie, the corner of his mouth twitching upward. The courtroom camera probably caught it, but nobody else seemed to notice. My foster mom grabbed my hand under the table, whispering that we would appeal, but the child services officer was already approaching with a thick folder of transition. Paperwork. Everything prepared in advance. Mrs. Nakamura tried to block the aisle, demanding to see the judge in chambers. Security moved in. The judge called for order as my stepfather stood, playing the relieved father perfectly. His eyes never left mine. I had seconds to decide, to make a scene and prove I was the unstable runaway they claimed, or comply peacefully and hope for another chance. The prosecutor caught my eye from across the room, his lips forming two words. "I'm sorry." I chose compliance. As security escorted Mrs. Nakamura back, I leaned close to my foster parents and whispered that they should check my library cubby. They looked confused but nodded. They didn't understand yet, but they would. The bathroom situation came next. I needed guardian permission to use it, but my foster parents were no longer legal guardians. The officer explained I would need my stepfather's permission now. He savored every second of that power, making me wait while he finished signing papers. Finally, he nodded and stood to escort me himself. His hand landed on my shoulder in the hallway, fingers finding the exact pressure points he always favored. In the bathroom, he straightened my collar with deliberate care, the kind that never left marks anyone could photograph. His words were soft as he mentioned how things would be just like old times. Walking back to the courtroom, I spotted a familiar face near the doors. The reporter from our school newspaper, the quiet kid who always ate lunch alone. Our eyes met, and I mouthed a single word. Help. Recognition flashed across his face before he looked away. The child services officer continued reading the transition requirements. She mentioned the new house my stepfather had purchased, sale of our old home already in progress, and noted the finished basement, pre-soundproofed for a music room. My stomach turned to lead. The drive to the new house was in my stepfather's car. Classical music filled the silence. Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, the same piece he'd played during punishment nights, loud enough to drown out any screams. My hands stayed folded in my lap, perfectly still. The new house looked normal from the outside, suburban safe. Inside, he gave me a tour with obvious pride, cameras in every corner, for my safety, after my dangerous runaway attempt. He showed me the monitoring app on his phone. Every room appeared in a neat grid of video feeds. My old room had been recreated with disturbing accuracy. Same furniture, same posters, same everything. Except the desk now faced away from the window and a digital timer sat on top, counting down study hour. He explained, study materials limited to 1 hour before mandatory lights out. The door had an automatic lock set for 9 p.m. sharp. A library book fell from my backpack as I set it down. Mrs. Nakamura's business card tumbled out from side between the pages. Emergency contact information printed neatly below her name. My stepfather picked it up, reading it slowly, then pocketed it. My reintegration rules, he said. No outside contact during the adjustment period. I repeated the number in my head until it stuck. My mother arrived an hour later. Mrs. Nakamura's sudden shift from quiet observer to fierce protector made me wonder what she'd seen before in her years as a librarian. The way she called social services immediately suggested she knew something about these situations beyond just protocol. The treatment facility van pulled away as I entered the house. My mother's movements were sluggish, uncoordinated. Despite the summer heat, she wore long sleeves, a fresh bandage, peeked from her left cuff. Her pupils were dilated, unfocused. She hugged me in the doorway, whispering urgently, her breath carrying the sharp chemical smell of new medication. Stronger doses than before. Whatever they'd given her at the facility had broken something inside her. Dinner was already set. When we entered the dining room, 3 place settings arranged perfectly. My stepfather insisted on a toast, to our family being whole again, and my mother mouthed along, matching his words perfectly. She'd heard this speech before. The phone rang during dessert, the school principal calling about my reintegration plan. My stepfather took the call in the kitchen, but spoke loud enough for us to hear. I'll drive her to and from school. No after-school activities, no tutoring, not until trust is rebuilt. The principal agreed. I helped clear the table, palming my mother's anxiety medication bottle when she wasn't looking. The label showed a new psychiatrist, Dr. Harrison, I recognized from the country club directory in my stepfather's office. Another friend, another connection. My foster parents called after dinner. My stepfather answered on the first ring, voice warm. She's adjusting well, he told them. Just needs space to process. I sat on the stairs, watching him pace the living room with my phone. Every word was perfectly crafted. That night, I tested the windows in my room. The bathroom window had been painted shut, multiple coats ensuring it would never open. Every other window had new locks requiring a key. I watched my stepfather add that key to the chain he wore around his neck. When he caught me examining the lock, he smiled. Learned your lesson, he said. No more midnight escapes. The next morning brought news about the school newspaper. The reporter from the courthouse had written an article about the trial, but the editor killed it, citing legal concerns after a phone call from the judge's office. The reporter's social media post disappeared within hours. I mapped every inch of the new house over those first days. Every door, every window, every possible exit. The basement door had an electronic lock. The garage opener was removed from my mother's car. Even the fence gates had new padlocks. It was a sophisticated trap designed to look like a normal family home. The first morning at school arrived with military precision. My stepfather walked me through the entrance, hand firm on my shoulder as he spoke with a security guard. The same guard who used to wave at me. Now he studied my face carefully, nodding as my stepfather explained about my flight risk status. I watched him make notes, adding my name to some kind of watch list. The hallways felt different with every eye tracking my movements. Teachers who never noticed me before now watched from doorways. My stepfather had made sure everyone knew about the runaway incident. He painted himself as the concerned parent, dealing with a troubled teen. At my locker, I found a folded piece of paper tucked into the ventilation slot. My hands trembled as I unfolded it, making sure nobody watched. The handwriting was unfamiliar, but the message was clear. Your story matters. Teacher Alliance, with a simple drawing of a book, the same symbol Mrs. Nakamura used. I crumpled the note and shoved it deep into my pocket. The cameras, my stepfather mentioned, weren't just at home. I spotted new security cameras in the hallways, their red lights blinking steadily. Everything was being watched now. In chemistry class, the teacher announced new lab partnerships. I was paired with Melissa Chen, a quiet girl I'd never talked to before. She looked up at me with curious eyes and said her father thought I was lucky to have a second chance. Her dad, the judge. The realization hit me like cold water. I forced a smile and nodded, playing the grateful, reformed runaway. Melissa seemed nice, unaware of the weight her last name carried. During our lab work, she chatted about normal things, her piano recital, her family trip, her father's poker games. She mentioned custody cases in the pot, joking about my stepfather's lucky streak. I froze as I measured chemicals. Lunchtime meant eating in the cafeteria under supervision. No more hiding in the bathroom. I sat at an assigned table, picked at my food, and tried to ignore the whispers. After school, I waited by the entrance for my stepfather. A woman approached. Mrs. Tanaka, one of the library volunteers. She walked past without acknowledging me directly, but I heard her say into her phone that her husband didn't want any association with controversy, and that their tutoring arrangement had to end. Another door closing. The ride home was silent, except for classical music. At the house, I found my mother in the kitchen staring blankly at the wall. An appointment card sat on the counter. Family reconciliation specialist, with daily sessions now. The medication bottles lined up beside it told their own story, triple the normal dosage. I spent the evening at my desk, the timer counting down my study hour. The work was easy, but my mind wandered. When the timer hit 0, the door lock clicked. Shut, 9 p.m. exactly. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling camera's red light, and tried to plan. The next day in computer class, I accessed my cloud storage. Hidden among old projects was a video file labeled "just in case." I downloaded it quickly to a flash drive hidden in my calculator case. The file showed my mother, bruised and swollen, documenting her injuries and talking directly to the camera. Real evidence. I deleted the browser history and returned to my assignment, heart racing. The guidance counselor pulled me from class for mandatory adjustment disorder sessions. I knew her notes would go to family court, so I played stable, grateful for the second chance, talking about how much better things were, all while fresh bruises throbbed under my clothes. My stepfather knew exactly where to hurt without leaving. Visible evidence. Back in chemistry, Melissa mentioned her dad's poker game again. The way she talked about it gave me ideas. Information was power. I started paying attention to her stories, who attended, what they discussed, how her father ran his courthouse. During our next lab, I let my sleeve ride up just enough to show fresh purple bruises on my forearm. Melissa's eyes widened, but she stopped herself from speaking. We finished in silence. That evening, my stepfather announced a random safety check. He went through my backpack methodically, checking every pocket, every folder. He found the calculator and examined it carefully, but the flash drive was already in my shoe, always 3 moves ahead. The next morning, Mrs. Nakamura wasn't at school. Word spread that she'd been barred from school property after the courthouse incident. Another ally gone. But something else happened. The substitute librarian, Ms. Z. Chen, used a subtle hand gesture I recognized from Mrs. Nakamura, a signal to identify safe people. I tested it while returning a book, and Ms. Chen's eyes flickered with recognition. She mentioned bibliographies were important for research. The emphasis on certain syllables confirmed it. She was part of the teacher protection network. My mother's medication made her sleep 16 hours a day. I found her prescription bottles and calculated the dosage, triple the normal amount, enough to keep her docile. The perfect witness. Who couldn't testify. I faced a choice: document the over-medication or secretly reduce her doses to help her. Saving her might sacrifice my freedom, but watching her fade away was killing something inside me. I chose her care. I removed pills, hid extras, and created a pattern that looked normal. She seemed more alert at dinner. My stepfather noticed immediately and scheduled an emergency appointment with Dr. Harrison. The cycle would restart unless I found another way. I suggested a family dinner at a restaurant for her birthday, a public setting, potential witnesses. My stepfather agreed, eager to display our perfect family. He chose an upscale place where he knew people. I palmed a note I'd written, "Call Mrs. Nakamura." When our waitress came by, I slipped her the note. She nodded, understanding. During dinner, the judge's wife entered for her own birthday. She insisted we join tables. Our happy family merged with theirs. Melissa sat across from me, glancing at my wrists. During dessert, she mentioned seeing bruises in lab class. Her father and my stepfather exchanged loaded looks. The threat was clear. Melissa didn't come to school the next day. Family? Emergency, the teacher said. I knew better. She'd been silenced. When she returned a week later, she looked exhausted. In class, she slid me her notebook with certain elements circled in a pattern that spelled out, "Help me too." The realization hit hard. She was trapped by her own family's power. We were parallel victims in connected cages. Over the following days, I pieced together more information. My stepfather worked at the judge's brother's construction company. Our entire system compromised. One morning, I found a business card in my locker. No name, just a phone number, and Federal Building Room 342. The handwriting looked familiar from court documents. The prosecutor hadn't given up. But I was too closely watched to act. My foster father had a heart attack. The stress took its toll. The church organized meal trains while he recovered. Another person destroyed by proximity to my situation. During supervised internet time, I posted a cryptic message on social media, a photo of my bedroom window locks with the caption, "Some prisons have windows." It was deleted within hours, but not before screenshots were taken. Chemistry lab became my only refuge. During research time, I posted a similar message on the school forum with a photo attached. Evidence building, even if slowly. An emergency. Custody review was scheduled, but the replacement judge was the original judge's golf partner. The entire local system was compromised. My stepfather prepared for the hearing with confidence. 3 days of escalating control and desperate moves. But something had shifted. Federal prosecutors were involved now, and media attention was growing. The net was closing. Then came the breakthrough. During one of my mother's brief, lucid moments, I convinced her she needed tampons from the store where Mrs. Nakamura shopped. It was a long shot, but desperation made me creative. I slipped a flash drive into my mother's tampon box. Too obvious a place for my stepfather to search. That evening, federal marshals surrounded the judge's house during his weekly poker game. Arrests were made for judicial corruption. My stepfather realized what was coming and burned documents in the fireplace, maintaining his concerned father act even as his world crumbled. A new judge, unconnected locally and known for child advocacy, was appointed. An emergency hearing was scheduled. My stepfather had 3 days to prepare. His paranoid control reached new heights. New locks, daily shoe searches, even examining my clothes seams with a flashlight. Then everything exploded in court. Federal prosecutors, child advocates, media reps. My small family matter had become something larger. My mother testified clearly. Medical records and x-rays spoke for themselves. The court reporter described my stepfather's wrist-grabbing and refused recusal by the original judge. Melissa's video deposition detailed her own father's corruption. Even the defense couldn't spin it. I testified last, rolling up my sleeves to show scars and bruises. When I mentioned the soundproofed basement, my stepfather lost control and had to be restrained. The judge's decision was swift. Immediate removal from his custody, criminal charges recommended, temporary custody to my mother under supervision. My foster parents offered ongoing support, family by choice. 6 months later, I sat in Mrs. Nakamura's library. My grades had recovered, my bruises faded. My mother attended therapy 3 times a week and hadn't missed a session. My stepfather's trial ended with a 15-year sentence. Other quiet kids began approaching me at lunch. I taught them chemistry, but really I taught them to document everything, find their Mrs. Nakamura's, and remember that escape often takes multiple attempts. I keep a calculator with a hidden compartment, not for evidence anymore, but for emergency numbers shared with kids who flinch too easily. Kids who wear long sleeves in summer, who know that monsters can wear suits and speak softly. The system failed me repeatedly, but people didn't. Mrs. Nakamura, the court reporter, even Melissa, who risked everything for a stranger. They proved justice is possible when someone believes you, and sometimes that person has to be yourself, refusing to give up, refusing to disappear, refusing to let them win. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. Dinner's ready. I packed up my books and headed home to a house with windows that opened. To a family healing slowly but surely, to a life I'd fought to claim. The 13-year-old who crawled through a basement window feels like a different person, but I carry him with me, a reminder that survival is just the beginning, and true victory comes from helping others find their own windows to crawl through. I hope you have a wonderful day filled with much simpler challenges than basement windows and hidden flash drives.